about you, but I was forced into solo traveling. I did not have anyone in my life that was willing to go to the places that I want to go to and spend money in the places that I wanted to spend in. Most of my friends and family, they wanted to go to the Caribbean and lay on the beach, while I wanted to go to like Sri Lanka and India and all these places all over the world. So when I started to do the research on how I can start solo traveling on a budget and just do it safely, I would see all these girls all over the world, Europe, Asia, in the Caribbean, just looking like they didn't have a care in the world, while I was scared to death. I'm like, I'm just a regular girl from Brooklyn. I never even left the United States without my friends and family. How the heck am I gonna do this? But now that I'm on the other side of solo traveling, I traveled all over Europe solo, countries in Asia. I even lived and taught abroad for 2 years. Now, here's what I realize. It's not because these girls have a ton of money. It's not because they're braver, they're smarter, whatever. They're not better than any of us in any kind of way. In this video, I'm gonna give you the 4 tips you need to start your solo travel journey. And spoiler alert, it's not about money. It's not about having a budget. Although this channel is all about budget traveling, this is just not the issue here. So if you're solo traveling because your partner backed out, no one wants to go where you want to go, or if you just want to have the experience of solo traveling, this video is totally for you. And also, it doesn't matter if you're traveling solo for 5 days or if you're moving abroad for an entire year. These tips will help you. Okay, so the first thing we're going to talk about is safety. Now, this is probably the number one thing you're worried about, your number one concern, and the number one thing your friends and family will talk to you about when they hear that you're taking your first solo trip. Now, I know this might seem a little too simple, or maybe I might seem like I'm being naive, but I honestly believe the majority of the world is pretty safe for female solo travelers. I know this might seem silly, but think about it. There's already females walking around in the country doing their thing solo, right? So why would it be this major issue or concern if you're traveling around the country solo? The key here is research. Look at what other solo female travelers are doing, read their tips and tricks, their do's and don'ts, and just follow their advice. They already did the hard work for you, just follow their advice. And this is gonna be simple because there are literally thousands of blogs from solo female travelers, YouTube channels, everything. And they're so willing to teach you how to travel in X destination safely. So do your research. After you get your advice from that solo female traveler, the next thing you have to do is go to the travel.gov website and read up on the safety of the country. You're gonna need a different perspective on how safe the country really is. You wanna know what's really going on. And the best thing to do is to go to the official government travel website. And what's also cool is that you can read up other information about exit and entry requirements, all that jazz. I'll link that website below. And the last thing concerning safety is if you know you're not gonna feel safe or comfortable in a certain country, don't go, don't bother going. You're just gonna ruin your trip. For me, there's just some places in the world I'm just not gonna go to. I'm not gonna waste my time and money going there, even if I'm a little interested, because I know I'm gonna be uncomfortable and not have a good time. So don't ruin your trip with your worries. If you know you're not gonna be happy, don't go. Okay, next, it's not all about the safety, like the crime rate of the country you're going to, because bad things happen everywhere. It's not all about that. It's about the decisions you choose to make when you're traveling around that country. Going to someone's house you just met, walking late in the dark and probably drunk, and even eating like street food that you know you should not be eating. I did that. Your best bet is to make the same decisions you would make back home in the country that you're visiting. Better yet, just be more attentive and more aware of your surroundings and your decisions when you're traveling solo. And just to stress this, your health is a part of you being safe in another country. Take care of your body, bring your vitamins, your supplements, whatever, bring some Imodium, because you could end up ruining your trip because you got sick, because you made a silly mistake. So guys, safety is not just about protecting yourself against crimes, like going to a super safe country. It's just all about protecting yourself and keeping yourself safe and happy and together, just your overall well-being. So I have 3 steps you can take to be safe in whatever country you're going to. The first step is to sign up to the Smart Traveler Enrollment Program, which is simply just letting the United States government know where the heck you are when you're abroad. In case something happens, they could come find you. I'll link that website in the description. The next thing you can do is send a detailed outline to your loved ones back home, your parents, your sister, your partner, whoever, a friend. Just let them know exactly where you're gonna be and what you're doing. So if you know you're gonna be doing a food tour in Paris on September 15th, just let them know that. If you know you're gonna be hiking in X location, from this time to this time, let them know that. Just give them all the details of what you're gonna be doing and where you're gonna be doing it. In addition to that, send them a copy of your accommodation address, phone numbers. Just give them some piece of information to contact you in case of an emergency. The last thing you need to do is sign up for comprehensive travel insurance. You need your travel insurance to cover many areas of your trip, flight cancellation, if you need to go see the doctor because you're sick, lost luggage. It just needs to cover every aspect of your trip to just help you to relax. So when I was solo traveling, I would use World Nomads travel insurance. I'll link that in the description below. It's definitely a common travel insurance for solo travelers, but you can use the search engine insuremytrip.com to find many different travel insurance services. But whatever you do, make sure you get travel insurance. Stuff happens. Okay, so the next thing we need to think about is manage your money and being smart with your money. I know I did say this video is not about money. It's not about money and doing things on a budget, but it's more about how you handle your money when you're solo traveling. You need to be smart about how you're handling your money because remember, it's just you alone. You're the only one creating the budget. You're the only one managing the budget. You're the only one looking at prices and deciding if this is a best buy, if you should skip it, all that jazz. You are the only one. And also one little downfall of solo traveling is that you're not splitting the bill, like you're not splitting the accommodation, the rental car. It's just you paying for everything by yourself. So you need to have a solid budget and follow through with that budget. Be on top of your spending. Running out of money when solo traveling is a terrible thing that I do not want you to experience. Yes, you can contact your friends and family back home for some money, but what if back home is nighttime and where you are right now is daytime and you're in a tight situation? So while you're home in wherever you're from, America or Canada, while you're at home, why don't you practice having a budget, creating a budget for the month if you don't do this already, creating a budget for the month and following through and being so strict with that budget. I created a video on how to create a trip budget for wherever you're going. I'll link that above and below. Just use that video to help you create a solid budget and a budget you can follow through on. The next thing you have to think about when solo traveling, and I talked about this a little just now, but is making wise decisions, handling yourself, being aware of yourself and your surroundings. It's just all about decision making. I don't want to scare you, but this is a reminder that you're doing this all alone, all by yourself. And you don't have a second, third, or fourth pair of eyes to help you make these decisions. It's just your eyes only. So I've definitely made some mistakes when solo traveling. Like we all make mistakes. But I know if I had someone else there with me, like my sister or whoever, they would help me to like catch that mistake. So what I'm trying to stress here is this time, more than any other time in your life, you need to have your T's crossed and your I's dotted. Is that what that saying is? You just need to be on top of everything. Now, I have a checklist. It's linked in the description, just about everything you need to do to plan your trip abroad. Just to cover some here, what you need to look out for are your documents up to date? Does your passport have more than 6 months on it? Are you sure about your flight time? Trust me, I booked a flight before thinking that it was 8 a.m. when it was actually 8 p.m. at night. We make mistakes, we're only human. Do I need a travel visa? Did I book my travel insurance? Are my dates right? Like they say, the devil is in the details. You need to be on top of these things. Those little fine details, those are the things that ruin the whole trip. For example, when I was planning my trip to Europe last year, I took the wrong COVID test. I took the antigen test instead of the RT-PCR test, and I was not able to board the plane to Ireland, and guess what? I had to push back everything. I had to change my Airbnb dates. I had to change my flights. I was taking a flight from Ireland to Croatia. I had to change that. It just messed up a lot of things just because of that small detail. So take your time when planning and organizing and preparing for your solo trip. I suggest that you take 3 months to plan your trip. Just give yourself enough time to put everything together. All right, next what we're gonna talk about is your happiness when solo traveling. The last thing you wanna do is plan your trip out for 3 months, save a ton of money, maybe even get an extra job to pay for the trip, then get to the country that you're visiting and solo traveling in, freak out, and come right back to America. That's the last thing that you wanna do. Now, there are 3 major things that will affect your happiness when solo traveling. Feeling lonely, cultural shock and fatigue, and homesickness. I suggest that you look at these 3 things as something that's inevitable, like you're human. Prepare for it and just know how to handle it when these negative emotions come up. So let's first talk about loneliness. I suggest that you deal with loneliness before it even happens. Prepare for feeling lonely before you feel lonely. Yes, I know this is a solo trip, but you're still human, and I need you to just remember that. So here's what to do. When planning your solo trip, just incorporate some activities where you'll be around people. And this is totally up to you how many activities you want to do. But for me, for example, if I'm traveling for like 10 days solo, then I'll probably do 1 to 2 activities. And these activities might be a cooking class, a guided tour, a free walking tour, language classes. I might stay at a hostel to be around other solo travelers. Just whatever activity you like doing, just book an event where you can be around other people and do that activity. So again, make sure you schedule in some interaction with other humans. The next thing you have to think about is homesickness. So the thing about homesickness, I find that it only kicks in when I've been traveling for like a really long time, so maybe like 3 months, then it will kick in. But that might be completely different for you, especially if you're now solo traveling. Maybe it might kick in 5 days in. So this is another thing that you need to prepare for before it even happens. So here's how you deal with homesickness before it even happens. I just do things that makes me feel connected to life back home. So I would call my friends and family on the daily. You can call them every other day, whatever feels right for you. I would make sure I have a lot of my favorite things. Like for example, I talked about this on the channel before, but I am Guyanese and I need my curry powder. So I travel with curry powder wherever I am in the world, even if it's like a tiny Ziploc bag with my curry powder. That makes me feel connected to my culture and helps me alleviate that homesickness feeling. And then little things like make sure you have your favorite flat iron. If you have a favorite nail polish, just pack it. Make sure you have a VPN so that you can watch your favorite Netflix show. Just the little comforts of life, just make sure you have that packed or prepare for it for your solo trip. And I know all these little things might seem silly, but guess what? These little silly things that brings us joy, it's what makes up our life. Now, the next thing that will affect your happiness when solo traveling is culture shock or cultural fatigue. Now, everyone experiences culture shock on some level, whether that's feeling really anxious and nervous in like crowds of people or literally having a panic attack. It's a spectrum of reactions when it comes to culture shock and cultural fatigue. But you will experience it on some level, even if that's, like I said, just feeling a little nervous and anxious. This is another thing you need to prepare for before it even happens. The number one thing you need to do to avoid feeling cultural shock or cultural fatigue is to just know the do's and don'ts of the country that you're visiting. Get very, very familiar with the country you're visiting. Learn how to best communicate with the people in the country that you're visiting, pick up some of the language. Now, I made an entire video on this subject alone. Make sure you check that out. I'll link that above and below. This is particularly important if you're traveling long term, because if you're traveling 5 to 10 days, you probably won't experience like severe culture shock. But if you're like me and you lived abroad, that cultural shock will kick in, and it kicks in like every couple of months. Like you never stop experiencing culture shock. There's actual phases of culture shock. It's a serious thing. But again, you might not experience it severely if you're traveling 5 to 10 days, but still check out that video to just help you prepare. So guys, in the comments below, make sure you let me know what it is that you're really worried about when solo traveling. Is it about money? Is it about safety? Is it about feeling lonely? Just whatever it is, make sure you put that in the description because I want to make some more videos on this topic. And of course, I'll answer any questions that you have. I really hope this video was helpful. If you made it to the end, make sure you subscribe. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.